So what is planning permission? Planning permission is one of those things that has become like a holy grail for homeowners and property investors alike. Anyone who's been through the system will know that getting planning permission for even the most simple types of development can feel like climbing Mount Everest at times. So in this video, what I'm going to be talking about, what is planning permission. I'm going to be explaining what it is, how to get it, and also the best ways to use it to maximize the development value and also the profit of your property. So I'm Ian Gracie, and I've been in the planning industry for over 10 years now, on both the council side and also the private side. So I've seen all manners of different types of developers, homeowners, property investors use the planning system to their advantage to kind of make the most profit possible. And you can be very creative with getting planning permission in the different types. So this video will be kind of running through the basics and hopefully will be the catalyst for your next property purchase or the next kind of extension that you hope to do to your property. So what is planning permission? Planning permission is what you apply for if you want to develop any land, any site, any property, for anything. So if you want to build something on farmland, you apply for planning permission, or if it's a rear extension or a roof extension or an extension to a shopping centre or a new office building, anything that's outside, you need to apply for planning permission basically. And to do that, you need to use the planning portal. The planning portal is a website where you submit all the planning applications go through. In there you'll do everything like submit the address, the applicant, the agent who's someone acting on your behalf, all the details of the proposal like the size, the materials, the use, that kind of thing. And then also through there you pay the application fee. So you'll get asked a bunch of questions about what the development is, like how many units and floor space and things like that, and it will then spit out a number, and that's the application fee. And then once you then go to submit the application, what I should have said that when you're also going through the planning portal, you can add any documents. So the documents like drawings and reports like planning statements and design and access statements, that kind of thing. And then once you submit your application, it goes to the local planning authority and it goes to them for validation. And this can either be quite a quick process or it could be quite a frustrating process. So it really pays to have really clear and really good submissions through the planning portal. So go to the council's website, and on there it will tell you what you need to submit depending on what type of development it is. So really, you can get advice from a consultant on that to make sure, but it pays to really go through that, because the value in getting an application validated straight away is just huge, because validation, if it's not done right or straight away, can take a really, really long time, because the officer will get in touch with you, I need this, you'll reply, and there'll just be lag times in every single bit of correspondence. So it really pays to do that. Yeah, so once it gets validated, then gets allocated to an officer if it hasn't done already. And the officer has, dependent on the size, almost all applications are 8 weeks. It's only majors that are 13 weeks really. So they have 8 weeks to determine the application. And normally when it gets close to that date, you'll start getting a flurry of contacts from the officer, maybe asking for additional information, or sometimes they'll ask for an extension of time, which is their way of making sure that they stay within the required decision timeline for the sake of their stats, the council stats. And then when you get after the 8 weeks or longer, depending on how long it takes, you'll either get planning permission or you'll get refused. And planning permission usually comes with, depending on the size of the scheme, you'll either get a bunch of standard conditions, which are things like must comply with the drawings you submitted and materials, and then there can be other extensive ones like pre-commencement conditions. And if you get refused, you'll then get reasons why, and the reasons will state XYZ in accordance with policy XYZ, and that's what the decision notice has to say. And it's at that point where it would pay to get some advice, because a lot of people think that once an application is refused, they haven't got any options beyond there. So I've done a video on refusals and next steps and all the options you have. So have a look at that, and it could be really helpful for you, because a refusal is not the end of the line. So that's what planning permission is, and that's the process for getting it. So now that we know the process of what is planning permission, we need to know how to get it. And these 3 steps are the kind of keys to determining the scale of your ambition for your development. So there are three key things that you need to know. Number 1 is check the planning policies. So every council has planning policies. They're adopted policies, and they're what's known as the local plan. So depending on what your type of development is, whether it's a rear extension or a change of use or a new school or a block of flats, there will be policies that are relevant to that. So go through all the adopted policies, and in there you'll know what the council accepts and what they don't. Another thing, a key thing, whilst it's not policy, there's things that you'll find on the council's website called guidance, and they've got different names like SPDs or SPGs, or they'll have local names for them, but essentially there should be a section on the website next to adopted policies that says planning guidance, and in there they'll have specific guidance on things like whatever are locally specific issues, so things like design or alterations to a house, or sustainability or things like that. So locally specific things, and it pays to kind of to review those, because they support the policies and they're referred to quite often, and they guide decisions. So that's the first thing. So check the planning policies depending on what you want to do. The next thing is the planning history, and that basically shows you what applications have been submitted for that property. So not only should you check the planning history of your site, which will give you an indication maybe of things might have been refused in the past, which would be a red flag to not develop yourself, or if there's no kind of evidence on your site, look at no neighbouring sites, so either on your street or locally nearby streets, to find out what's been going on in the area. The last step this is really for people that are doing a research of a property. Maybe they want to do a property investment. The last step is to do a site visit. Now obviously if you own your own house, you have a fair understanding of the impacts around your local area, so you'll get a sense already. But if you're looking at an investment, say an auction or whatever, you'll need to go on site, because Google Street View never gives you a good enough sense of what might be acceptable in a certain place. So it'll give you an idea of whether it's worth doing an extension, or how big you can go an extension, because it could affect your neighbours, say, or any other reason. So a site visit for people that are researching, and then corresponding it with the policies and the planning history, are the 3 huge steps that you need to take in order to get planning permission. So far this whole video has been about what planning permission is, the best ways to get it, and the steps you need to take to get the best understanding of what you could develop on your site through policy, planning history, and the site and surroundings. But this last step is to check whether you actually need planning permission, because there is a document called the General Permitted Development Order, and in there's a list of types of development that you can do without the need for planning permission. So planning permission comes with it extensive time frame. So there's consultation, there's negotiations with the officer, there's it's very easy for the officer to take their time with it, to negotiate an extension of time. With permitted development, there's a clear timeline of when something should be determined. So that gives assurance to people. The permitted development order gives assurance to people about what types of development they can do. And in the 10 years or so that I've been in the planning industry, the General Permitted Development Order has never been so extensive in the amount of development that you can do without planning permission. So it includes most of what you would probably seek to achieve on a house, say. So there are rear extensions where you can go as far as 8, 6, 4 or 3 meters. You can do roof extensions, you can do side extensions, you can do alterations like patios at the front. You can do changes of use, you can do things like HMOs, and there are huge classes in there now for people that are kind of have slightly bigger portfolios for extensions for new flats on blocks of flats that they might already own. So the General Permitted Development Order now has a huge amount of development options in there that are really aimed for helping out the small guys, so helping out homeowners and helping out small property developers that the country just needs housing. So there's a huge demand and undersupply. So the general permitted development order is kind of there to solve that issue. So that is how most people are maximizing their profit through the planning industry right now. Right now, they're using the permitted development rights to maximize the development potential of their site, with assurance of how long the application takes, and with assurance that they don't need to negotiate with an officer, and in most cases they don't need to consult with local neighbours who can scupper their plans. So the general permitted development order, have a look. It's a huge potential for property owners and property investors. So that's it. That's what planning permission is. That's how you get it, and that's the best way to maximize profit, by not using planning permission. So if there's anything in the video that you want me to explore more, leave a comment below and I'll happy to do another video on it. Or if there's something I mentioned that you'd like me to expand on, by all means, again, leave it in the comments and I will either respond by comment or I'll do a video. So thanks for watching. I will see you on the next video.